In the heart of the Utah Badlands, a team of elite paleontologists struck what they thought was gold. A fossilized claw unlike anything they'd seen. Black, corroded, sharp as obsidian. Dr. Elaine Mercer stared at it uneasily. It was massive, at least 5 feet long. The heat was unbearable, but something else made her skin crawl. Jackson, a young intern, laughed and reached down to brush off more dirt. Shh. The claw sliced his fingertip. Blood hit the fossil. And then something changed. The wind stopped. The air grew still. Even the insects vanished. That night, the desert fell into an unnatural silence. Coyotes didn't howl. Owls didn't screech. At midnight, something large brushed against the tents. Heavy, deliberate, breathing like a dying animal. Elaine stepped out, flashlight shaking in her hand. The claw was no longer in the ground. By sunrise, Jackson was feverish and muttering nonsense. Elaine found him trembling under his blanket, green veins glowing under his skin. His wrist, the one with the cut, was blackened, pulsing. She tried the radio. No signal. The sat phone? Just static. Then a public weather alert buzzed through. Landslide. All access roads blocked. They were trapped. Jackson's condition worsened. He screamed in pain and begged for help. The team locked him in the supply trailer. That night, a low, wet growl echoed across the valley. When they returned to the fossil site, it was torn apart. Something massive had walked away from the dig, and it had left claw prints behind. The storage container holding the fossil had been shredded from the inside. Footage from the camp's cameras showed flickers, a green blur with jagged spines and glowing sores. 1 second it was there, then gone. Later that night, Lila's tent was ripped open. Blood soaked into the desert sand. Her body was never found, only her broken glasses and ID badge. Panic took hold. Elaine examined the claw marks, 6 feet across, deep enough to crack rock. "It's not just alive," she muttered. "It's hunting." The others bolted the RV doors, armed with hammers and knives, useless against whatever this was. A distant roar shook the windows, and it was getting closer. Haze collapsed in the morning, veins green, eyes bloodshot, no wounds, no bites. Elaine realized something terrifying. It was airborne. Lila started coughing next, then Raj. Elaine connected the dots. This creature wasn't just a predator. It was the origin of a prehistoric plague. The radio suddenly buzzed to life. A strange growl, rhythmic and intelligent. Then a whisper. A voice speaking in a dead, unknown language. Hayes screamed and began vomiting green bile. They watched, helpless, as his body seized, bones cracked. And then he was still. Elaine whispered, "It's infecting us." The power cut out. Outside, something was breathing, right next to the RV. At twilight, they saw it. The creature stepped into view, towering, twisted, diseased. A malformed dinosaur with crusted boils, drooling green sludge, and claws longer than a man's body. Its eyes glowed like dying stars. It roared, releasing clouds of spores from its back that shimmered in the air. One of the team ran. The beast pounced. Elaine screamed as the ground trembled beneath its weight. It wasn't killing to eat. It was infecting, deliberately, spreading itself like a virus. Elaine, Raj, and Lila fled into the canyons, chased by the sound of claws digging into stone. The Plagueclaw was tracking them, smelling their fear, following infected blood. They climbed narrow rock ledges. Raj slipped. As Elaine reached down, slash! The creature's claw sliced Raj's back. He screamed. Within seconds, his skin turned green. His screams turned to gargles. He melted, alive. Lila vomited. Elaine pulled her away, but she already knew. They wouldn't last long. Not unless they stopped it. Hiding in a cave, Elaine discovered ancient petroglyphs, drawings of a beast exactly like Plagueclaw. Warnings carved into the stone. Rituals, symbols, words etched in blood. Do not bleed into the earth. She gasped. The fossil. It wasn't dead. It was dormant. A biological weapon, sealed away by a forgotten civilization. But they'd awakened it, and now it wanted to spread. In a dark corner of the cave, she found crushed herbs and tribal tools, maybe part of a cure. But time was running out. Elaine hatched a plan. She returned to the cave and coated the entrance with blood from Raja's backpack. Bait. The Plagueclaw followed. It roared as it entered, claws scraping stone. Inside, Elaine waited with dynamite, rigged from old mining crates left nearby. She lit the fuse, ran for the back tunnel. Boom! The cave exploded. Rocks collapsed. The creature's shriek echoed, buried beneath tons of earth. But as she coughed in the smoke, green blood leaked through the cracks. She'd sealed it in, but not stopped it. A week later, Elaine woke up in a government hospital. She was in a hazmat. A week later, Elaine woke up in a government hospital. She was in a hazmat pod, quarantined. Doctors in suits examined her, but none would speak. She looked in the mirror. Her veins pulsed green. She begged them not to take her out of containment. Too late. A military chopper arrived. They lifted her out. As the blades spun overhead, she looked back at the desert. The rocks were splitting again. The spores had spread. In a black site lab underground, scientists studied a specimen. Inside a glass tank floated a fetus, a baby version of the Plagueclaw. It twitched. One scientist screamed. It had teeth already. In the next room, Elaine sat strapped to a chair, laughing in her sleep. Her dreams were not dreams anymore. They were instructions. An alarm suddenly blared. Containment breach. Subject P01 has escaped. Footsteps ran. Glass shattered, and the lights went out. Deep beneath the surface, in the broken tunnels of the collapsed cave, something moved. A chunk of rock shifted. Then another. From beneath, the creature's tail twitched, still alive, broken but regenerating. Behind it, a grotesque discovery. A nest. Dozens of eggs. Glowing. Pulsing. Covered in filth and thick fungus. This wasn't just a monster, it was a queen. Each egg throbbed like a heartbeat, and from within one, tiny claws scratched at the shell. Above ground, the sand cracked open. A thin green mist seeped into the wind. Miles away, a pack of coyotes inhaled it. By dusk, they were foaming at the mouth and hunting like demons. The plague was no longer contained. It was evolving. In a sealed government lab, General Mallory reviewed the footage of Elaine. She sat in a chair, head lowered, arms trembling. Her skin had grown pale, hair falling out, but her voice had changed, deeper. Not hers anymore. She whispered strange words in an ancient dialect, exactly like the cave carvings. Dr. Keene leaned in. She's channeling something, the intelligence behind the creature. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Elaine raised her head. Her eyes, no longer human. Glass cracked. The fetus specimen in Tank 01 slammed into the wall. Then, it vanished. The tank was empty. The lights went out. Screams echoed through the lab. The mutation had found a host. An hour later, Sector 0 was locked down. Too late. Security footage showed a guard coughing violently, his blood turning green before he collapsed. Then another, and another. The spores were microscopic, airborne, leaking from Elaine's breath, her skin, her words. The baby creature slithered through air vents, growing rapidly, absorbing biomatter, mutating faster than anything science had ever seen. A lone scientist uploaded a final warning message to the outside world. Do not let this spread. Do not let her speak. But it was already too late. The message cut off as the lab walls trembled. The last image, a shadow moving across the security camera, with claws as long as blades. Elaine walked out of the destroyed lab barefoot, not limping, smiling. Behind her, flames and screams. She wasn't alone. Following her, hunched and twisted, were the firstborn, 10 juvenile plague claws. Not fully formed, but fast, vicious, smart. She whispered something in the wind, and the creatures scattered into the wild, into the forests, the towns, the cities. It had begun. The plague no longer needed fossils. It had adapted. The earth belonged to them now.